yeah, man, I had questions around it, and I wanted to ask more questions just to, as a point of education for our community. And this is the reason why I wanted Swiss to come on, but he was unable to come on at this moment, but we hopefully get him on a further episode. But yeah, man, I say all that to say this, like, if a man's doing that, if a man's put so much heart and soul into the community, then it's a damn shame that we that own products and service and provide products and services don't reciprocate by stacking those things in the shop to make sure that people are actually passing through and doing deals with one another, because this is where we can employ ourselves. The other thing I would say as well, that kind of another question or query or something that was a point of contention for me was when I did visit the store in East London in Stratford. One of the things that disappointed me was the reception of the staff. So they were kind of coupled up in the corner of where by the till on their phones. Now that might sound trivial, yeah, you know what I mean, you find the phones, but you can't do that in H&M.
Yeah,
you get what I'm showing you, which is my point. You get me?
You
like
an arrogant, some Saudi man might slap in the back of your head.
Like you get sacked straight away. You get what I'm showing you. So then, in my opinion, like in some ways, that might have been one of the marginal losses contributing to the loss of, you know, whatever revenue, which meant that the shop needed to shop. But again, we can't have that conversation comprehensively enough without Swiss. So I just wanted to make that mention and kind of back that up with everything else we've said prior to this point. You know what I mean? So before we move on, is there anything you wanted to cover with?
I think you covered all of it, and I just think that, you know, it's someone who has been an immensely integral part of pushing the culture forward. Yeah, who doesn't really get his flowers. Someone needs to be respected, and we definitely need to help kind of share that responsibility. Yeah, of empowering people like Swiss as well as other potential entrepreneurs. And I just said it's another question of getting people together. Because, you know, we're not in a period where it's like there's not enough black designers and anything anymore. Like, there's black designers and they design very well and they do very well, and they are in
the forefront of culture, bro.
We've got like Oswald Boatengs and Bimber and Lola's and, like, you know, right up there, market positioning, right at the top. Yeah, right at the top. Way through, bro. Yeah, right the way through. So how you know, not British, but Pharrell Williams is like head. You know what I mean? Yeah, LV. So, you know, and doing that, replacing Virgil. So it's like
even on a ground level though, it just takes like literally someone who can design, someone who knows about supply chain, someone who can get, you know, access to stock and printing. And if you put 4 or 5 people together, you can create a business, bro. Yep. That would sustain jobs and can build into something that where these people that you've mentioned, like where they are and what they're doing with their established brands, this is not something that, and you know, I'm speaking now and I'm thinking to myself, they're actually out there. There are people that are actually doing it, and that's why I love the new generation, because they're not falling foul to the foolishness that the older generation is. The only thing I would say is that we as a community need to not turn our backs on the age-old business models like food, drink and stuff like that, and doing it well and doing it better, because people need to eat. You know what I mean? People need to drink.
Well, so, you know, Big Zoo's got his water company as well, isn't it? People need to drink as well. So
massive example, bro. Yep. Massive example.
People need somewhere to live, as Dean Forbes has been, and tech obviously dominates. Yeah. So, you know, you got people like Dean Forbes. So it's basically important for us not to just do commerce in terms of what we spend on Black Pound. Is that it's also do our diligence in terms of looking at emerging markets and entrepreneurs and people that are benefiting you as well. And as we've discussed on the podcast previously with like Crepton Conan, and, you know, buying into convenience and, you know, just working towards having all of our needs met, and you know, having people who are trying to cater for our convenience, paying attention to what they're doing and supporting it whenever we can.
See it there. So yeah, I mean, again, salute to Swiss. You know what I mean? And I will say this as well. One thing he did say, Black Pound Day as an initiative, as a day, and as a store is not done. You get me? So he's got plans. He's just recuperating and doing his thing at the moment. To, you know what I mean? To, like, I think he's learned lessons from this experience, and he's gonna do it better and proper and whatnot. So yeah, I'll leave that there, and hopefully we can have him on to unpack it properly. So the next thing, City Splash. It was a quick debacle, and then it just got quickly ended. So it's not really much to say, but I did want to speak about it quickly.
Like, I don't really know that much about it. What happened?
So basically, City Splash, for anyone who doesn't know, is a reggae. It started as a reggae festival that was in Beckenham Place Park for the first one, and then was relocated because of the size of it. Relocated to Brackwell Park. Brackwell Park, if anyone doesn't know, is like just a normal park, a sizable park. But what they do every summer is they hold or host a number of festivals. I think Cross the Track is one. There's about 5-6 festivals that they host, but there's a limited amount of days in which they are able to occupy that the park for festivals, and it's managed by Lambeth Council. So essentially, they exceeded the number of days that they were occupying the park, which meant that they basically cancelled all the festivals within the park, including City Splash. That was on Friday. Currently, we're on a Monday the 19th, I believe it is, 19th of May, and the High Court cancelled it on Friday. Today, I woke up and it's back on again. So, but I say that to say, this is an example of like absolute powerful black commerce.
Yes,
because just in ticket sales alone, you're talking between 1.9 and 2 million pounds generated for just ticket sales.
Just on ticket sales, yeah.
I think Black Eats London are responsible for most, if not all, of the food and beverage stores. Not to say like they alone, but like subcontracting out. So can you imagine the amount of vendors that would have lost out money, security, all the other logistical elements of this festival? And you're talking festival, I think they're approaching, and I could be wrong, numbers of around about 40,000 people per festival, you know what I mean? So this is an example of when black people come together and create something. You get what I'm showing you? And like it's a beautiful thing. You get what I'm showing you? So I just wanted to highlight this as something that is, to me, working well. And shout to the, because I still can't find out who is the primary or like people behind.
I know someone who'll know. We should look into that.
Yeah. Please,
we want to make sure that we celebrate them as well. But,
definitely. And it'd be good to have them on the pod, because that was one of the reasons. But amongst other reasons, I want to do some business as well. You get me? But I say all that to say, like, that's how it should be. You get me? Like, when you're talking about Glastonbury or these other big festivals, nobody really knows who. Yeah, we know who owns the farm, and we know who, but there's a collective.
There's a collective, and there's a number of people that make money, because it's this example of these revenue streams that emerge out of it. Because Glastonbury also have like like coffee table books, or where they have like the anthology of people that have appeared here.
Yeah.
Someone publishes that and somebody makes money doing that as well. There are people who put together businesses, and you can be an entrepreneur. And going back to what we're saying about like money, like so talking about like Black Eats London, you can just have a food truck or do street food. Yeah. But if you're connected to the right festival, you can play City Splash every year. Yeah. And that's a guaranteed a bit of money you make. Or you might be someone who, just so you're not just everyone's waiting to pile onto Notting Hill Carnival. Yeah. There's always different avenues where you can still be making money. So these things are massively important in terms of like whenever you're thinking of these events, there's revenue for that, for publishing, there's revenue for merchandise, there's revenue for catering, there's revenue for transport. And
you see all that you've just mentioned, 4 avenues for revenue, and that is 4 different businesses. Within those businesses, logistically, there's so many places or spaces for employment, and this is how you grow an ecosystem, bro. You get what I'm showing you? So this is the thing, like this is exactly what I'm talking about. Black enterprise, you get me? So yeah, man, it's a powerful thing. And if these things are replicated across industries, what you have then is a strong ecosystem by which we cannot be pushed around on a local or a political level. You get what I'm showing you? If everybody's doing that and contributing in the ways that they, instead of thinking about, oh, I should be here. No, let's talk about meritocracy. You get what I'm showing you? What does your skill set allow you to bring to the table, and just contribute that. Let's not think about what your ego is telling you about yourself. You get what I'm showing you? Like, and that goes for me as well, because I have an ego sometimes, and you know, sometimes I have to simmer myself and say, well, raw, like, these men are more qualified than me to occupy this space.
And everybody does. But like I said, this is the thing. It's whether we are concerned with our own individual and sometimes stunted success, or we're going to contribute to the overall empowerment of ourselves. And, you know, I think that's what it comes down to.
Yeah.
So people are prepared to do that. So,
and again, that does build us as a community to the level that, you know, if somebody is murdered from within our community through nefarious means, or if there's something that happens to one of us, we can actualize change without even going to the streets. Don't get me wrong. I'm not adverse. I'm not saying like we should not be protesting and doing those sort of things. But there's ways in which we can do that. The pen is mightier than the sword. You get me? And if we have the community stacked in certain spaces, they can't touch us in ways in which they keep pushing us around. You get me?
Yeah.
Which leads me on to the next point. I like these transitions. I'm gonna keep working on them, bro. But anyway, wanted to talk more about Donald Trump and his world tour. The geopolitical situation and this 3D chess game that seems to be being played at the minute. So I'm going to go through a few things, because remember the last time we had this podcast, we was talking about tariffs and the way that the markets were reflected or reacting to Trump's extreme tariffs, and how he was just tariffing every country, you know what I mean? And now he's gone on a world tour, peace talks and, you know, loving and all this stuff. You get me? Not been to Africa yet though, but hear what I'm saying to you, yeah? He's been to the Middle East, and I'm going to try and keep this concise, but paint the picture in a way which you can see the connections. He's been to the Middle East, so you're talking countries like Saudi Arabia, Qatar, UAE, Iran, even having meetings with Iranian government, you get I'm showing you, which have been the bane of American, Israeli kind of issues for a long time now. You get I'm showing you, Iran's been a problem for them, but yet here we are, Trump is kind of now almost placating to them and talking about strengthening, because, and not, in fact, let me not go before I need to go. Hear what I'm saying to you, is that with all these meetings and all these things that he's doing, it's all these arms deals. Like, for instance, the UAE are spending hundreds of millions on arms from the US. You know what I mean? Whereas, in one hand, what Trump's saying is he doesn't want, and this is what he's saying, he doesn't want there to be a war in the Ukraine, between Ukraine and Russia. He wants a ceasefire in, and he's only whispered this, but he has said it, he wants a ceasefire in the Gaza Strip. But all of these, those two wars in particular, are being done using American arms. You get what I'm showing you? So then if you're stopping that, if you're saying you're not gonna entertain these wars and you're trying to create peace in these spaces, Gaza and the West Bank, because he wants to take over those spaces, but then Ukraine and Russia because he just doesn't want any conflict with Russia to continue, and he wants to get the rare earth minerals from Ukraine, right? So, and even in some ways in certain African countries where they're negotiating, we've talked about this, negotiating defense for rare earth minerals. So these are the deals. So all of these, carry on, sorry.
No, was it, what's his name? Rubio.
Marco Rubio, which is the American representative.
Just before, like we last time we was talking about how he is offering some dubious security for region of the Congo to protect them from like M23 rebels and Rwanda,
which I called them the M24. Well. I was thinking of the motorway, but M23. Those who know. But I say all that to say, so you got all of that going on, right? Then you've got the short war between Pakistan and India. And if you understand the geopolitical relationships between Pakistan and India and their placated allies, so you've got like Russia and India being quite close, but then Russia and China are quite close, but then Apple have redirected their operations from China because of the tariff war to India. And then just so happens, after that happened, Pakistan and India are in this war, to which China was okay about because it's destabilizing India.
Yeah.
So then Apple have to remain in China, which then obviously creates jobs for Chinese people. You know what I mean? To which now Trump's gone in and said, let's end this war quickly. And that's been done.
Makes it hard for you to levy tariffs against a country that's exporting Apple phones to you.
But guess this is the thing. One side gets its arms from America, and one side gets its arms from Russia. So it's even in that short war, they're getting to see how their arms are actually work. It's crazy.
It's crazy.
All of these things are happening. Yeah, this is like a massive 3D chess move, like chess game that's been going on. Yeah, but the one thing that Trump, I believe, has realized in doing all these deals. So again, Iran, Saudi Arabia, UAE are in the, in Africa, pillaging gold now today. You get, I'm showing you, like
from Sudan,
yeah, you get me. So, and even other parts of Africa, they pay in certain militias in northern hemisphere of Africa to try to destabilize places like Burkina Faso. But getting to all of that, the one thing that I think Trump has realized is that no part of the world can afford Africa to really rise and get themselves in a position.
Not because one corner. They can't though. This is the thing. They can't. The biggest fear.
Yeah.
Congo alone, if it was a stabilized country with nationalized its resources, tech industry would float. 1/3 of all gold comes from South Africa. Like, they cannot afford.
And this is why I feel like this is what has turned everybody against each other because now Trump has realigned them, in my opinion. Again, I don't know, but it's my speculation.
But you say that, but when you really think about the other two great wars, they were also done, but a large part of those wars are fought with Africa as a theatre of war. And you think about like the scramble for Africa and how the pretext of that before the First World War, and how a lot of African colonies and who had access to those colonies and thus those resources were determined by the outcome of the Great War. Because obviously Italy and Germany lost their colonies. Interestingly enough, like obviously people talk about like the Holocaust, but in Belgium 3 times as many people were killed. But richly
in Congo,
by King Leopold, and they amassed immeasurable amounts of money as a result of that. So a lot of the time, even though these proxy wars that they have, even these proxy wars normally are a precursor to these people thinking that they have access to the resources in in Africa, and so they're very afraid of it. And like I said, Trump used to call these places shithole countries, but now he's all over the place trying to break bread.
Because, and this is the two key things. I go by the saying, listen to what people do, not what they say. People can say what they want. So there was much made of the fact that Trump visited the Middle East, but did not go to Israel. And the reason cited for that was because Israel are still continuing with their bombing campaign of Gaza and so forth and so on, and Trump wants that to stop. This is what they're apparently saying. Certain right-wing media in particular are saying this in the US. Now, if I listen to what he's doing rather than what he's saying, what he's telling me is, I'm going to create... Look over here, guys. Look over here. While Israel is still bombing Gaza, but look over here, I'm doing all these like deals and bringing the world together.
So much diplomacy. I'm so prepared to negotiate.
You get what I'm saying? Like it's all nice. It's so there's nothing to see. Well,
he even told Hamas that if they release a particular hostage, that he would work towards a ceasefire and a truce, a temporary truce with Israel, which they released, and then he snaked them.
But this is what shows you that they can't be trusted. Plus, Hamas, we all know that they were created by the very powers that they're apparently fighting against. But anyway, I say all that to say this. With Trump now doing all these deals, it's almost like it's over the heads of states within Africa. You know what I mean? And the one thing that Trump has shown me is what America respects is nuclear power and money.
Yeah. Because
in certain Middle Eastern countries where they don't have nuclear power, and nuclear power the means to create a nuclear warhead that could send wherever, they've got the money to pay for one. Like, so for instance, the UAE and Qatar and places like that, they're rich in abundance of money, you get what I'm saying, because of oil and so forth and so on. And it's almost like they're trying to stop Africa from being a player in that ballpark. You get what I'm showing you?
Oh, they would. Even they can't really have nuclear programs without, you know, places like France. There's, was it 70% of their uranium comes from Niger?
Exactly.
So they can't even, a lot of them can't even have nuclear programs without having access to African resources again.
But this is the reason why they can't afford for Africa to nationalize. But this placated kind of or effort to bring these countries together, in my opinion, is a way to kind of say, look, guys, we can't can you not see what them Africans are doing over there?
Yeah.
You get what I'm showing you? Like, so we can't afford to be fighting amongst ourselves. We need to make sure that you, UAE, can still get your gold. You, Qatar, can still get whatever you're getting. I can get my rare earth minerals to create my warheads and keep Lockheed Martin in business. Yeah. You get me? He's got shareholders. As the government of America, they've got shareholders in the space of the military industrial complex and the pharmaceutical industrial complex.
Yeah, they've got
to feed that machine.
They're answerable to them.
Yeah, I'm showing you.
So especially because like they probably have a bill from their 20-year conflict in Iraq and Afghanistan, and these men are saying, well, "Where's the peas?" So he's been sent out there to go and. Man's gonna source some new revenue streams for you. Some new things have to come.
Like, if you're saying you're gonna I'm gonna stop the war. I'm gonna stop. The day one, he said he's gonna stop the war between Russia and Ukraine. To which actually he tried to broker a truce between Zelensky and Putin, who was supposed to have a meeting in Turkey, and Putin just didn't turn up. Sent a lower level delegation to kind of have those conversations. Because Putin's a bad man and he knows he can't trust no man. You want me to come over to Turkey to have what conversation? Exactly. Are you mad, blood?
Putin's like, I'm not sure what you think is going on in here, Krasnov. You answer to me about I'm going to come and do. Hold on a minute. Who was giving you bread when you had no bread in the 80s, my G? Who bought up your Trump Towers and that? Are you mad? Who was bringing you gal?
You get what I'm showing you?
Yeah. None of that, bro.
It was like, nah,
you're linking Eastern European things. Are you mad? When anything you want, you come to me, my G. About can I come and you don't summon me, Donald.
You get me?
I summon you.
You get what I'm showing you? Like, why man sit there and just poised and said, I'm not going nowhere. And then Trump didn't even make... If this was any other world leader, he would have been on
Truth Social chat and madness.
Like, how disrespect...
This brother is out here cussing everybody. On Truth Social, he'll talk about Biden, he'll talk about Obama, he'll talk about Taylor Swift, he'll talk about Kamala. There's no smoke for Putin. Yeah. On his worst day, he ain't got no smoke for Putin. Yeah. Not at all.
That's it. That's it, man. But we obviously, from an African point of view, we are all championing Ibrahim Traore and the growing collection of leaders that are joining the Sahel Alliance. Now, Morocco, I think was it Morocco or...
Do you know what? I think, it might be,
Or was it Guinea? I think it was
Guinea.
It was Guinea, right? Yeah. Guinea, who have joined us. I mean, don't get me wrong. I am not so quick. If I am one of the leaders, either Mali, Niger, or Burkina Faso, brother, we need to do some testing, some rigorous testing before we let anyone. Because next door neighbors are Ivory Coast, and they're moving mad, bro. Like. People Nigeria's government's banned Pan-Africanism. You get me? Like, what? You get me? Like, what? You get me? So if they then turn around today and said, you know what, we want to join, listen, no Trojan horses around here. And if anyone doesn't know what the Trojan horse thing is about, I'm not even going to tell you the story long. Go and look it up.
No Judases.
Do you get me? You can't just bring man into the house and then man's just popping out of all the kind of corners. You get me, on some different techer when you didn't have that. That wasn't the agreement. But I say that to say, obviously the rest of the world cannot afford to be paying the prices for rare natural rare earth minerals from Africa that they're supposed to pay, because then they will be a lot more broke in the context of things, which is the reason why they don't want Africa to nationalize their whole thing and I mean, seek sovereignty.
And it's you know, an interesting one because it runs alongside this narrative that they tell the populace of the northern hemisphere that it's in fact Africa that's dependent on them. Which is so mad.
Yeah,
because even down to, and you know, even world maps are falsely represented to make Africa look like it's smaller than it is, and to place Britain, obviously being the nucleus of the empire, at the center of the world. Yeah, because so it's again, as we've said many times, these are pivotal times geopolitically, particularly for the continent, and what could, you know. You said something recently as well. See if they violated with Ibrahim Traore. If they think the whole George Floyd thing was a madness around the world,
and that's why this is why I feel like Trump knows he has to do this diplomatically, because if and everybody keeps saying unaliving, if they kill Ibrahim Traore, it's going to be a madness. So if you think that it was bad with my man, with what's his name,
George Floyd being murdered,
Floyd. Bro, it would be a whole different thing, because it's long. It is long, like
it's so long.
But here's the poignant part, in my opinion, is that we are kind of leveling a lot on the shoulders of Ibrahim Traore, and he already manages a country whereby he's having to strike deals with Russia for security and defense. He's got North Korean soldiers fighting the Janjaweed or what another militia.
But ISIS, basically.
They're basically ISIS. You get what I'm showing you, in to stop them from destabilizing the country. These are all Western efforts trying to destabilize Burkina Faso and kind of remove that whole thing slowly, so that it kind of doesn't rise up anybody else, because people are raising up in confidence. I say that to say, while we levy that much pressure on Burkina Faso to be and the leaders of Mali and Niger respectively, what we're doing is giving them too much to do, in my opinion.
No, for sure.
You get what I'm showing you? So we need to represent ourselves on the ground level in our community. So us being from South London and contributing to something in a way where we can now start to protect ourselves on a local level, national level, international level, and so forth and so on, to contribute to this whole movement. Because again, they don't respect, if you don't have money, you don't have nuclear power, they don't respect you. You get me? And you'll just get pushed around in your communities. And this is where we need to do better to contribute to this. Now, I'm saying that to say that it is happening, but it is things that we need to really,
because they don't want another Libya. That's what not so much another Libya, a Gaddafi, as someone who has the vision and who is trying to create a unified Africa, especially not just diplomatically but economically.
Right.
And that's what they definitely fear. And you know, it's like, what's the worst that could happen? I thought we couldn't do stuff. I thought we owed you thanks, Macron. I thought that's what it was. It's funny how we're always like, Africans always want aid and we always want welfare, and but when they leave by themselves, not doing nothing, they're not even chatting your lot's name. You lot are all paying attention, obsessed.
It's a mad thing, bro.
And also, it's funny how now all this talk about immigration that we've been hearing for the last 2 decades. Well, now that the white South African refugees are fleeing.
Oh, you know what? I don't even want to do. You've got so much to go into. I don't want.
It's funny, I know I'm saying nothing about that, like, now, innit?
Basically, South Africans are being given immigration status in America by Donald Trump, but nothing about the Congolese people that are being displaced and that are really going through war,
or the
Sudanese people. You get what I'm showing you?
Or the Congolese people, or the Congolese people.
It's mad. You get what I'm showing you? So, like, don't listen to what people say. Listen to what they do. You get me? What Trump is saying is, white South Africans over black people who don't have homes and being displaced. You get what I'm showing you? That's what he's telling you. You get me? So
it's funny, for all the years of being told as a black person, go back to Africa, when it was time to say, oh, you don't go back to Europe, they left quick. They left real quick. They were like, hey, bro, I don't want any trouble, all right, brother? We're going to go. Move! Now!
But the wickedest thing is, there's a lot of white South Africans that are saying that it's actually, what are you talking about? It's not
bullshit.
That, yeah, it's bullshit.
So one of the people that moved, the guy owned a mining company.
Yeah.
But yeah, obviously, just the slight hint of black revolution or reclamation of what's rightfully theirs. Pick up the suitcases. We got to get out of here. The black guys are really angry. Get on the fucking G4 right now. Get out of here. But no time for Nando's. We'll not have that in America.
Shit. So yeah. Anyway, Kate. I mean, that ought to say, yeah, we need to. It'd be a good thing for us to start looking at building our communities, to build our leaders as well. You get what I'm showing you, because we seldom have protections. And I'm going to give you a big example as to the reasons why we need protections, especially within our communities, because we have people like Carole Malone that can go on big TV programs and talk about there were good things that come out of colonialism, and to cite education and sanitation as two of the things that which I have some damning facts against. White people brace for impact, because...
Yeah, so just anyone who doesn't know who Carole Malone is a right-wing pundit who frequently appears on daytime TV and a number of right-wing news stations, where she basically regurgitates and spouts this Anglo-imperial nonsense with no factual or no facts to back it up. You'll know her from being this very... Basically looks like a bulldog chewing pissed on nettle, innit? But she basically... has this peroxide hair, who is also very xenophobic and anti-immigration, despite the fact that her own husband is Bosnian. So her husband's not even from the UK.
He's probably got money in it.
He's probably got no choice. And yeah, she's just, I think she's got a little bit of a Ozempic and just got herself gassed, and now is doing what a lot of right-wing Anglo-imperial English supremacists do, is they bank on the fact that they feel like most working class white people, most British patriots, most imperialists, or people that align with imperialist ideology, don't read.
Yeah.
Most people they'll be like, well, my granddad said that we fought in the war and we won. They don't, like, this is why they have this romanticized idea of war and stuff, and it's a long way, a Tipperary, because they have this romanticized idea of the British Empire improving the world, and you know the sun never set on the British Empire. That's what that was, and we took caps of tea. Like, if you hear English people tell it, they think tea came from England. You know,
listen.
That they think tea came from England. But they do. They think I know. Like, if you look at the English breakfast, most of the stuff on that plate don't come from the UK. You know. But this is the thing, is that a lot of British identity stems from the fact that Britons, from having such a dominant position globally due to imperialism and due to the empire, are lies.
Yeah, it's lies. You get me? So we'll go into that. But before we go into that, I want to preface it with the Gary Lineker situation. So Gary Lineker put up a post on social media in support of Gaza and the Palestinians being like eradicated from both Gaza and the Western Bank, and Gary Lineker being the presenter, BBC presenter, football presenter of Match of the Day, and most of the kind of outliers or main competition things like FA Cup, World Cup, European Cup, that type of thing. And he does that on behalf of the BBC. Now, as BBC do, they say that their journalists should remain quote unquote impartial. But this was on his own personal social media, where he basically said the truth, which is, this is a joke. Use like ethnically cleansing, you're killing kids. Like, it's beyond a joke. Like, we can all see what you're doing, and you're trying to tell me you're not doing it. Like, what are you talking? Like, this is on that thing. He never said that, but he said it in his own polite.
He kind of did. You're paraphrasing, but he kind of did, and I guess he's even saying that through gritted teeth. And you know, the context of Gary Lineker is not only is Gary Lineker as a footballer had a very illustrious career. Like, he played for Barcelona, played for Tottenham.
Yeah.
And throughout his career, never received a red card, so never sent off. So it was always known as Mr. Nice Guy.
Yeah.
Which obviously then he parlayed and kind of like played on that throughout his work as the main ambassador for Walker's Crisps and being the nice guy, and then for a quarter century has been the main presenter for Match of the Day and done and been the figurehead for most British football coverage.
Yeah.
And so is a staple and is permanently enamored within a large part of British culture, which is football.
Yeah.
And for me, it really says it all that he is basically in a position financially, he's in a position professionally, and is a privileged position, arguably, as people would say, as being like a straight white man, where he could very easily turn his head and ignore the scale of the atrocities that have been taken in place, for the last 80 years, but really intensified in the last 18 months.
Yeah.
And yet he has chosen his platform on a number of occasions to speak about the genocide which is taking place in Gaza, the West Bank, Rafah, East Jerusalem, the entire annexation of Gaza and Palestine, and the erasure of indigenous Palestinians. And this has led to massive backlash on a number of occasions, and people that don't think he should have platform, and has finally culminated with Gary Lineker resigning from his position at the BBC.
But before, and this is the performative efforts of everyone who upsets the Jews. Now, we can have another conversation, because when I say the Jews, I don't want...
because we don't mean Jews.
Yeah, we
mean white brothers who call themselves Jews.
White brothers that call themselves Jews.
And I'll explain why. Because first of all, because as you know, on this podcast, I too have had very similar issues with Zionist lobby. But my issues began by me referencing a story where Mizrahi Jews, who are from both, some of them from North Africa, but a large contingent of them are from Ethiopia and Eritrea. Also, those who are familiar with the Torah will know that Moses, the man who started the whole thing, the originator of the Exodus, lets my people go. The origin story. His wife was from Ethiopia. Right?
Yeah.
So that is how closely linked these people are to the lineage of the Jewish lineage.
Yeah.
That's how closely linked they are.
Yeah.
All the way down to King Solomon conceiving Menelik I.
Yes.
With the Queen of Sheba.
Yes.
Or Queen of Abyssinia.
Yes.
Who went on to sire, Haile Selassie himself.
Yes.
So if you know, you know.
Yes, brother.
You get me?
Yeah, talk it,
if you know, you know.
Yeah.
And during the famine in Ethiopia, a lot of Mizrahi Jews were airlifted to Israel. But then when they were arrived, they were forcibly, and in many cases unknowingly, given birth control in order to sterilize them so they couldn't reproduce while they were in Israel. Now, myself, I've always advocated for the Jewish community. And to be quite honest, if I started reading off some of how close I am to certain Jewish people, some people's marriages would end. But we won't do that today. But there is an intersectionality there clearly between the black and Jewish community, two communities who have historically been marginalized and brutalized, particularly by, white supremacists.
Yeah.
So naturally for me, I brought up the fact that these black Jews are being sterilized, because the last time I heard about black people and Jewish people being sterilized, it was the Nazis. Now, this led to a lot of backlash in my direction by people who were claiming that I was publishing a fake story, or I was publishing false or fake news, as it's called nowadays.
Yeah.
And since then, I have had a target on my back. Yeah. I say that because what we don't want to do is begin to do what they want us to do, which is conflating the Jewish community with the Zionist community.
Yes.
Because the largest contingent of the Zionist community are white Christian nationalists.
Right.
Members of the Mormon Church or the Church of Latter-day Saints. So it's not actually the Jewish community themselves. A large contingent of them are basically white American people who, in case you don't know, want Jews to move back to Israel so that the final days can begin and the rapture begins. So just to make that very simple, for those of you who don't know, the reason why white Christian nationalists support Jews and Israel is because they want them to go there so they can die, and only 400 of them are left so that the end of days can begin. If someone said to me they want me to go back to Africa so we can all die and only 400 of us are left so that God can come and start again, that would suggest to me they don't like me.
It's more than 400.
No. They reckon only 400 of them will be left if they don't convert, and that's how many can be left.
Right, okay. Yeah. I mean, we'll check the facts on that. But I'm saying,
basically, what I'm trying to say is that this idea of hiding behind the Jewish community is something that's becoming very problematic. Because
I want to. Sorry to interrupt you there. This is the problem, because these Zionists are the ones going around and they're in positions of leadership. So whether it's entertainment, business, commerce, whatever it is, and they're being able to infiltrate and inflict these atrocities on the people of Palestine. Yeah, and they're doing it under the guise of being Jews.
Yeah,
and the normal day Jew is going to suffer at the hands of these Zionist leaders,
and they're not going to help them. And this has always been my biggest concern for the Jewish community, which again has intersectionality, because there are a lot of black Jews. There are Jews, even pre-colonial times. When we go back to the colonial point, before Nigeria was referred to as Nigeria by colonists and was made up in various different states based on the ethnic groups that made up those states, Igbo, where Igbo come from, was referred to as the land of the Jews. There's also a sizable Jewish population in Uganda, as well as the Mizrahi Jews were referred to in Ethiopia. And none of those groups have a right of return to Israel. All those groups of non-white Jews cannot return to Israel and instantly become citizens, which I find very strange.
Again, something I said to you when we was walking up the stairs, your hue's too dark. Yeah, but the main reason why I conflate the Gary Lineker situation with the Carole Malone situation is because, in the same way that before Gary Lineker actually was unceremoniously, quote unquote, removed from the BBC. I mean, if you know that he was planning. This is his last year on Match of the Day anyway. So for me, sacking him is like, I don't even think he's being sacked. He just can't be asked. He's looking at the fuckery and he's saying, "Use that, idiots." Yeah, whatever. Take the job. Whatever.
Oh, you're gonna push me? How about I jump? And then fuck you.
You get? I'm showing you, like, salute to the real people of the BBC, because we know there's people in the BBC, both black and white, that can't talk the truth because of their job. You get me? They want to keep their job. But
now
the main thing is the apology. And anytime you offend these Zionists, what often happens is you have to go into re-education school. This person is going to, be re-educated. They're going to go to the concentration camps and see what atrocities were committed against us while we were under the leadership of the Nazis and blah, blah, blah. Like, to do all of this, you offend the black community in the same way as Carole Malone has. Where's the re-education for her? Where is the apology from her? Who's holding her accountable, bro? You get what I'm showing you?
I mean, I'm not sure if she even... There's no need for her to apologize anyway. She might be receiving backlash, but I don't think she's even been reprimanded for her statements.
But she's not being reprimanded because we don't have enough standing to force that reprimanding.
Yeah.
Do you get what I'm showing you?
Absolutely.
And that I'm going to put squarely on our community.
Yeah.
I'm not going to rely on anyone else outside our community to make sure that she is afforded the training. And I'll say this in tongue in cheek, but Akala, where are you, bro? This is where we need you. But
it's not coincidence that he features a lot less in these places. The more that these institutions and these new far right institutions in the media are allowed to exist, and maybe he doesn't give it the time of day, because, as I said, you're not going to change the mind of somebody like Carole Malone because she makes money spewing this propaganda. And that's how she's not a journalist; she's a propagandist.
Yes.
And the things that she said have no basis in fact, and she knows that. And anyone who has an understanding of history will know that. But that's the thing, is that
spreading lies.
Spreading lies. And I've always said it. You always have to watch out for white guys in bow ties telling lies.
Yeah.
Because that's what they do. They get one of these idiots with a stupid haircut with a bow tie on TV, like David Starkey, and he'll say stuff like the riots and the rise in criminality in the UK is due to the fact that white working class people want to sound like Jamaicans. And it's this conflation of blackness with criminality, even though Akala himself, I can quote him as stating that one of the key criteria for members of the Windrush to immigrate to the UK was you couldn't have a criminal record.
Yeah.
So it's interesting that we are associated with criminality and this sharp increase in criminality, even though we were never criminals, and yet
you brought us over here to work.
Yeah, and yet they'll be making films about Peaky Blinders, and they're making films about the Krays, and they're making films about Robin Hood, and they are happy to glorify criminality when the criminal has the same hue as them.
Yeah.
No,
but I mean, I say this to say, I mean, a message to Carole Malone: you're either incredibly stupid or you are dumb and ignorant. I'm not trying
can't she be both?
I'm not trying to argue which one she is or whether she's both, but I'll say this much.
And overfed.
I mean, yeah, there is that too. But I say that to say, and for anybody within our community that doesn't know how to argue the points in which, and there's only 2 points I heard her say that were good things that to come out of colonization. One was education and one was sanitation. And I'm going to say this, as far as education is concerned, when you talk about astronomy, when you talk about mathematics, when you talk about like, let me just think about some of the other things. When you talk about like trans-Saharan trade, and I mean, if she even knew what Timbuktu was and the significance of Timbuktu, she would know that she has no cause to ever say that there was good things to come out of colonization. And even
Timbuktu, I doubt she even knows what seasoning is. So, you know.
But also, to quote Christopher Columbus, when he went to the Americas and booked upon the Africans that were already there, by the way, and spoke about how giving they were and how nice they were and how they didn't envy each other and blah, blah, blah. And he spoke so eloquently and nice about them. And then he ended the statement by saying, these people will be easy to overthrow and pillage and take their stuff.
Yeah, that's the mentality that they had.
Do you get what I'm showing you?
On the point of sanitation, it's important that it's also understood a large amount of the tactical advantages that European colonists had nothing to do with their strategic acumen or that their tactics. Smallpox right. Wiped out, decimated the population.
You know what? You're right, because these diseases was what forced them from. They were near eating each other. This is the reason why that forced them out their country to go and look for pastures new. Yeah, I'm showing you. There's a particular TV program where it was based in Japan. I can't remember what it was, but it was showcasing a story about an Englishman who ended up on the shores of Japan.
Is Shogun?
I can't remember, and he basically fell in love with this Japanese girl, and she was encouraging him to bathe, and he said, "Bathe? I bathed like 2 days ago. Like, do you want me to catch?" I think the disease that he called was scurvy. I think.
Oh, scurvy. Yeah.
Scurvy. Yeah. And I was like, but to talk about sanitation, that is incorrect. So for any members of our communities, particularly the kids, because like some of our adults don't know these things, so our kids need to know that sanitation was definitely something that they they taught us. It wasn't something that they taught us. I tell you what.
I mean, even today, you can see articles where some of the creme de la creme of European culture, like Ashton Kutcher and Mila Kunis, are two actors who are very prominent in Hollywood, and they'd be like, "We don't wash our child nor ourselves every day," and they're millionaires.
But listen to this: the aristocracy of Britain. Habitually, especially the women of that time, when they had those large dresses, like that were just layered upon layers and whatnot, used to go in the corner and shit and piss, and you wouldn't be able to see it under these dresses. You get what I'm showing you? They used to wear bags of perfume, spray themselves down, rarely brush their teeth
to hide the stench. So you're trying to tell me that it's not even Bridgerton, it's Shitterton.
Listen, Bridgerton is accurate only to the extent where it doesn't address sanitation.
This is what I'm saying. This is what I'm saying.
So no, you didn't bring education. You did not bring sanitation. So I just wanted to arm our community with those facts and figures.
Yes. And also, just consider, if they was going to bring education, they would have 100% literacy here. But working class white men form one of the largest percentages of people that can't read in this country. That's number one. Number two, if they care that much about sanitation, why is their doo-doo going into British waters now?
And also,
and if anyone says otherwise, you tell them to pour a glass of tap water from this country and drink it in front of you, or to go swimming in any of the bodies of water in the UK right now, because last time people did that, they ended up with tetanus and cholera, because due to no longer having EU regulations via Brexit, sewage companies are just tipping straight doo-doo into British waters. That is why, if you live in London, everywhere you go, Thames Water are doing repairs, because they are repairing the plumbing systems, which were brought to them actually by the Romans in the first place. So,
yeah, bro, we got limited time. I want to really like wrap this up, but sorry to interrupt you there.
No need to interrupt me. I'm just letting you lot know that the Black Plague took out 1/3 of the population of Europe, and the only thing that saved the people in Europe was the Great Fire, which burned a lot of them, because back then, people used to throw shit out their windows, and they used to throw excrement out their windows, and they used to sleep with animals. And that is how the disease was able to spread.
And also, I would say this as well. If you want to arm yourself with even more knowledge, look up the Great Stink. And we'll leave that one there. Quickly, because we've only got limited time left, yeah. I want to say, just on the back end of that is, in the same way that the Zionists have this system in place where everybody needs to be re-educated and apologize every time they quote unquote offend them, is the same way that Carole Malone should be told to apologize and re-educate herself. We should take her to spaces and places where she can get re-educated. That's what I'm saying. That's my point there. But anyway, getting onto the thing.
With your fishy pum-pum. That's what I'm saying there.
Quickly, bringing it home a bit, like, I just wanted to touch base quickly on something around the UK boxing scene, because what I do like particularly about this is where we would historically handle beef on the roads with knives and guns and stuff like that. People are having arguments online. So it started with Pound Sterling and Young Spray, then went to Vic Santoro to Young Spray, and then Bouncer versus Vic Santoro. And all of this has been handled online, but every redirection of violence has been like, let's have a boxing match. And I love that for our community. Yeah. And it's a space in which as well we can actually make money from it as well. You get, I'm sure.
And I think that is one of the biggest parts of it, is that we are arriving at a space where people understand that many other communities have earned very well from us fighting one another. And this goes way back to chattel slavery, where they'd have what's called mandingo fights, and they would encourage black men, particularly muscular, large, statuesque black men, to fight one another for their entertainment. Yeah. And the fact that we are catching on to that and being able to monetize our own strength and masculinity, rather than sacrifice our bodies for the white gaze and to line the pockets of people outside our community, is a good move.
Yeah, no, I hear it.
So yeah, man, I hope they do set it that way, and I hope that people earn off the back of it.
Yeah, man. And like I say, you get me, like, man, them just keep it off the road, keep it in the boxing ring. You get me? Like, it's a good look, and it's definitely a good example for which I feel like, the youth them can learn and see that that's how we handle things as men. Yeah. Like back in the day, we'd have a fight. Yeah. And whoever got battered would just shut up. You get me? Basically, like, that's what it is. You get me? So, yeah. I like that new thing.
Before social media, you couldn't run up your mouth, even on a computer game, because you'd be in a chip shop or in the arcade, and you could go home in your socks then too.
See it there. But anyway, we've run out of time and we've packed in. There's a few more things I wanted to get through. Actually, I'm gonna say this last word. Yeah. Big up Crystal Palace, yeah. Because the man them, because it is the man them. It is the man, definitely. You get me? And I'm not even a Crystal Palace fan, but I was buzzing, you get me? Eze and the man them.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like they beat City, which is like a
giant killers. They're giant killers, and it's also a testament to the perseverance of Ebre Eze, because he's overcome a lot. Like at one point, injuries he thought may have seriously affected his professional career, or at least affected his ability to thrive and succeed within the Premier League. And he has delivered and excelled, and I feel like
the one thing I would Big him up, massive. Big him up, and his attacking instincts are fucking great. But the one thing I wish Eze would do better is work more on his defensive game, and he doesn't even have to run back. He just needs to be positionally aware and cut off the passing lanes, because a lot of the times when they're defending, he's on his heels and he's kind of like not positionally aware and not putting himself in. Just simple movements can cut off passing lanes and contribute to the team's defensive actions. But with that said, because I'm not, this is not a football podcast.
Yeah, there's plenty of those. But big them up. And like I said, we have to say, for me, with Crystal Palace, like, I'm not necessarily a Palace fan, but we're from South East, but the man them do the thing. And I love the idea that yesterday's price is not today's price,
brother. And you know what, we needed that for the culture. You get what I'm showing you. And also to mention, there's a strong contingent of Christian, religious or not, but there's a strong contingent of Christians within that team. You get what I'm showing you, that
young focused men.
And you get me, and I love that as well. You get me. So the focus is in the right place. Whether you're Christian, Muslim, whatever. Like, they've got a collective thing that they are doing, and as men, as we talk about, that's a good thing. So anyway, again, I'm gonna say like and subscribe. I hope you enjoyed this podcast. Dane, big up yourself.
Big up yourself, Index. Good to be working with you again. Thank you very much for listening, supporting the podcast. I'm also going to be back touring again, doing a few shows all over. Doing a few shows across London, doing some outside London. I'm going to even be up in Scotland, all over the place. So please do check out the website for more details, and or just get in touch online and just find out where we're going to be next. And I'll let you know.
And you can find us on MYB_pod UK on all socials. And Dane Baptiste, just look up Dane Baptiste and you're done now. Yeah? Blessings.
Peace.
Yeah, man.